As you've seen from the smoke test, gaps like these can leak a lot of air. That makes the system a lot less energy efficient. Joining me today is John Wright from Wright Sales. John, there's a lot of options that we got to seal these systems up.
There sure is, and on this particular horizontal system that you see here, we've got sheet metal, we've got a ductboard plenum, and we also have some flex duct down below that has to be sealed.
Now, to do gaps like this, typically you'd use a mastic sealant or a tape?
Mastic and aluminum tape are very good. Typically, the mastic is very, very quick to, and very, very good seal to do that.
No cloth back, rubber-based tape?
As you know, for new constructions, you can no longer use cloth backed on that type of application. And may I add, that's cloth backed rubber adhesive.
Okay, now we have all types of foil type tapes. What's the best application of these?
Well, again, you've got a lot of options here. This one you're opening up right there is a butyl material with a 2 mil aluminum backing. That's very effective with metal-to-metal connections, particularly on something like this, like a furnace into a all-in-one coil like this. You also have this option here that you could put also in the seals. And this one happens to be a 181A-P. Now, that leads into this whole notion of UL 181 sealants, and in this case, the 181A applies to ductboard. And so you want to make sure if you're dealing with ductboard,
which is this material right here.
That's
it's
correct.
Fiberglass
That's
type
right.
ductboard.
You want to make sure you're using the right tapes and sealants. So you have a couple of options here. You have this product here that you can use to seal the seams. In this case, it's particularly effective because this is a whole axis panel. So when you use tape along here, if you ever have to get into the coil, you can access it easily as opposed to using a mastic that's 181A approved.
That you'd have to strip all off.
Exactly.
Now, I notice here you've got some collars going into this fiberglass ductboard.
That's correct.
And you've sealed that with a mastic sealant. Now, this mastic sealant, it's pretty important that you have certain, because you have requirements to meet if you're using it with ductboard. Now, this is a 181 product?
This is a 181A and B. That is, this can be actually used for both ductboard and flex duct. I think it's a great product in this application rather than, for example, the aluminum tape. You can quickly go around that ductboard collar and make a nice seal.
Now, if you're going to be using the mastics, any gaps over 1/4 of an inch, you have to use this fiberglass mesh.
That's
right?
correct. And the way you do that, you'd have to actually lay down some of the UL 181A sealant here, or mastic rather, put it down and then embed that in there and then brush over one more coat of the mastic.
Now, some of these type cloth back tapes, there's severe restrictions on where these and how these can be used. Is that correct? This is the old style duct
Well,
tape?
what the Title 24, the Energy Commission rather, has tightened up the use of cloth backed rubber adhesive tapes. These have been used for years in our industry, and now they're saying that if you're going to use it, in this case you've got an application here with flex duct. If you're going to use a cloth-backed rubber adhesive type tape, you're going to have to use it in conjunction with mastic as well as a tie. So that it basically adds another step to what they could be using.
So if you see this on a duct and it's cloth-backed tape and it doesn't have a drawband and it does not have mastic, it would
be non-compliance. And again, it's 3 steps there for the contractor to have to do, as opposed to what this shows, which is basically, again, back to a UL 181. In this case, this is the B type, which refers to flex duct. So it'd be a UL 181 B-FX. Again, this is a little bit different tape. If you can open up a strip of that, it's a mylar tape, about 3 mils thick or thereabouts. Great peel adhesion strength, as well as got a little bit higher temperature range than the old traditional cloth-backed rubber adhesive type. So that's now really the tape that is preferred in new construction.
Now, I have to use a drawband with this as well.
Absolutely.
So the first step would be pull the inner liner over the boot, then tape this with the UL 181 approved tape.
A couple of rounds of the tape, and then use a UV-resistant 150-pound tensile type of strap like this. Yeah. And you use a tool, and you pull it taut with your tool, and then you're going to break it off. And then the installing contractor is going to pull back his insulation, and his vapor barrier is going to go over the insulation, and he'll go around another couple of rounds with, again, that UL 181 B-FX tape.
And this is probably the most popular way to seal the ducts.
It really is the most popular and the most effective in terms of speed, and that's the name of the game in new construction. But it does a fine job.
Well, I've seen in older environments where they haven't had these fastened, and many times just the static pressure from the system will just blow the duct right off the boot, and it's laying down in the crawl space and heating the great outdoors. Now, in addition to sealing, it's also important that we insulate these cavities pretty well, right?
That's right. And here's some of the options for the installing contractor. that sheet metal plenum that you saw at the very end there, that return plenum, that was actually lined with this particular product. It's a duct liner, and the California Mechanical Code now requires R4.2 in terms of the resistance factor. Also, we have the option, if you didn't do it that way, this is FSK 1.5 inch, and this is going to be wrapped on the outside, and this also complies with R4.2. And then finally, or might I add, this has been used for years. This is 1 inch, 6.6 density type of product. This is 1 inch. This is actually would need to be actually gone around twice on the plenum in order to comply with a 4.2. So those are your options in terms of installing to the mandated R4.2.
Well, John, really appreciate you being here today and giving us a lot of good information.